Carmonenses, quae est longe firmissima totius provincia civitas.
People of Carmona, you have the best fortified city in the whole province. This is how Julius Caesar described Carmo, modern-day Carmona. The city rose to great prominence in Baetica thanks to its thriving agriculture, its unassailable defense structures and its strategic location. Following the Roman Baética route from Italica, modern-day Santiponce, we come to Carmo. The towns are separated by 40 kilometers, 27 Roman miles. The Romans would have had to walk for a whole day to cover a distance which today is no more than 30 minutes drive. Carmona is one of the oldest cities in the Western world. Tartessians, Turdetans, Phoenicians and Romans inhabited this region throughout history. Thus, the city's urban layout is the result of the passing of all these civilizations over its 5,000-year history. The city reached its height of importance during the Roman period. Carmo, which even minted its own coins, was to be found on the Los Alcores hill, dominating the fertile plains alongside the river Carbonese. It was situated on the old Via Augusta, on which it was an important post. As it entered the city, the road was paved with layers of compacted albaro and had a width of 6 meters and 40 centimeters, enough for 2 carriages. On opposite sides of the road stood the amphitheatre and the necropolis, the latter a funerary complex discovered at the end of the 19th century through the work of archaeologists Juan Fernández López and Jorge Bonso, an Englishman based in Carmona, is nowadays open to the public. The necropolis, as set out by Roman laws, was situated outside the city walls. Although initially the burial ritual was usually followed, towards the end of the era, incineration and the use of chambers which were dug into the rock became more common. 2 tombs stand out for their monumental character, those of Seville and the elephant. We are in the Seville tomb, which is the most interesting funerary complex in the Carmona necropolis, and, I would add, of the whole of the Iberian Peninsula. It is a tomb using an old quarry, that is to say, the place from where the stones for the construction of the Roman Carmona buildings were mined, and that, once run out, was used to establish this funerary complex. The tomb reproduces the atrium of a Roman house. We are now precisely in this area, an open area surrounded by a peristyle, that is a covered area held on 2 rows of columns. The tomb of the elephant received its name after the figure of an elephant carved in local rock was found inside it. According to some interpretations, its spatial distribution and elements discovered inside suggest that it could have been a sanctuary dedicated to the worship of deities Attis and Cybele. Following its original route, the Via Augusta would cross what today is the Paseo del Estatuto promenade. There, near to the circus, which hosted horse and chariot races, was a fountain which supplied water to the city. The Puerta de Seville gate, which guarded the western access to the city, was located between two watercourses. The Carthaginians built a bastion or defensive tower and reinforced it with a complex system of moats. Today, the Puerta de Seville houses the offices of the Roman Baética Route and Carmona's Tourist Information Office. After the Carthaginians, the Romans arrived in Carmo. Rome managed to expand its empire thanks to a series of successful military campaigns, which allowed its legions to conquer a large part of the known world. A legion was formed by 5,120 men. It was perfectly structured in a hierarchical manner and divided into units of various sizes down to centurias, 80 men under the command of a centurion. Each centuria was in turn subdivided into groups of 10 men known as contubernium, the smallest organized unit in the legion. Legionnaires used different types of weapons and uniforms which depended on their rank and the unit they belonged to. The infantry wore a lorica or breastplate, which evolved gradually with the passing of time. The same variations have been found in the helmets, which the Romans called galea. Their most characteristic weapon was the gladius, a short straight sword measuring some 45 centimeters. For combat over large distances, the infantry used a javelin with a wooden handle called pilum. Another of the essential elements was the shield, known by the Latin word scutum. This heavy quadrangular form of protection was made of metal and wood and measured a meter in length. In the light units, the scutum was replaced by the palma, the round shield of the velites, who wore leather helmets and used bows. The weaponry used by the cavalry was somewhat different to that of the infantry. These legionnaires, known as equites, used an oval-shaped shield and their sword or spata was longer. They also carried a spear called a contus, which was sometimes used as a javelin. The network of roads and defensive constructions was also crucial to the success of the expansion of the Roman Empire. One of the few architectural treatises which have been preserved is that written in the 1st century BC by Vitruvius, a military engineer serving under Julius Caesar. The shape of fortresses shall not be square or have salient angles because these benefit assailants more than they do the assailed. The arrangement and the shape of the walls will be such that the towers protrude outwards, so that the defenders can attack the enemy from the side as they approach. Between the 3rd and 1st centuries BC, walls and gates gradually changed in appearance. The Seville door is an access door to the city from Hispalis, as well as having the function of defending the weakest point of access to the city from enemy sieges. This is why the architecture of the door is dominated by military rather than decorative or monumental features. which normally characterize the access doors of Roman cities. It is a closed enclosure where you can be attacked from the top. The second set of portcullis had to be lifted up in order to access the city. And even then, there was another defensive system, accessed by means of a very sharp bend. That is to say, to access the city, they would have to turn 90 degrees, in such a way that they could face a garrison of the city army waiting behind.
Tenían que girar 90 grados de manera que podían encontrarse con una guarnición del ejército de la ciudad que les esperaba detrás.
Inside the city walls, the Via Augusta became the Cardo Maximum. The urban section of the road was paved with carefully placed slabs of great sturdiness, designed to withstand the impact of passing carts. Soon after the establishing of the empire, Carmona expanded out from its original urban centre, and the city took on an orthogonal layout. Luxurious domus decorated with mosaics made up the new city. This mosaic shows a Nereid, a beautiful young girl with a fishtail who lived in the sea wearing a marine plant as a bracelet. The route of the Cardo Maximum coincided approximately with that of modern-day streets, called Prim, Vendedera and Puerta de Cordoba. The forum stood at the crossroads with the Decumenos Maximum, which began at the northern gate of the city, part of which is still standing. The Forum of Carmo included all the elements usually found in important Roman towns, and part of it, to the northern side of the Mudéjar Plaza de Arriba or de San Fernando, is open to the public. There are also some remains of the temple, which according to researchers had the dimensions of some Aurea Templa. On the opposite side, underneath the site where the Madre de Dios convent stands today, was the basilica where the Romans conducted trading operations and administered justice. The citizens also gathered there to discuss everyday affairs. On one of the sides of the Plaza de Arriba, or de San Fernando Square, stands the town hall, whose courtyard exhibits a mosaic from the Roman public baths, unearthed in Calle Pozo Nuevo in 1923. From the public baths or termae of Carmo, we know of three hypocosta. This was the name given to the furnaces situated under the floor of the baths, which heated the rooms. One of the furnaces is still visible in the basement of a private house situated in Calle Pozo Nuevo. The baths were supplied with water from a huge cistern with a capacity of 67,300 litres, which also has survived. The prefurnium was the room which contained the furnace to heat the water and to store the wood to feed the fire. From there, hot air was made to circulate beneath the floor and rise up the walls through ceramic pipes. Little is known about the layout and structure of Carmona's baths, and therefore it is almost impossible to produce a reliable reconstruction of the original building. Widespread throughout the Roman world, termae were used to take hot, tepid and cold baths. They also included sauna rooms and were a centre of social life where people gathered to play dice games, read or talk about politics. The baths consisted of various chambers: tepidaria or sauna, caldaria or warm room, and frigaderia or cold room. The pools or bars were located in the centre of the building, and in the adjoining walls and niches there were benches and sitting areas. There were also other rooms which were used for dressing. To the east of the city, in a sparsely populated area, stood another public building, the theatre. Research suggests that it was located near to the Alcázar de Arriba, a fortress palace built by Pedro I in a similar style to that of Seville, which was one of his favourite residencies. The Cordoba door was built in Roman times between the end of the 1st century before Christ and the beginning of the 1st century after Christ, probably during the reign of Augustus and Tiberius. It seems it was abandoned and its access is blocked at some unknown time during the Low Empire. From this moment, the door was subject to the same history as the city. That is to say, it was refurbished, destroyed and rebuilt in the current neoclassical style, dated 1800. This neoclassical style is in fact an epidermis covering the Roman structure, which is the one giving shape to the door. Nevertheless, in Roman times, the door was a great deal more monumental than what we see today. The two towers on both sides of the central axis would probably have been higher. They would have had even two more structures, that is to say, 3 floors, whilst what is now 1 floor in the Roman times would have been at least 2. Apart from the central arch, which is now the access to the city, in the Roman times the door had 2 more side arches, used by the pedestrians, whilst the central one would be for the carriages. On its way towards Astigi, the Via Augusta left the city via the Puerta de Cordoba gate, descending the hill and crossing the bridge. Designed with 5 spans and brick arches, this viaduct underwent several transformations over time and is still in use today. On this same route through Roman Carmona, you will also come across monuments and places of interest which reflect later periods of the city's history. After the fall of the empire, Carmona was occupied firstly by the Visigoths and later by the Muslims. Most of the city wall, which was constructed over the Roman one, dates from the Muslim period. In 1424, the construction of the church of Santa Maria over the old Moorish mosque sealed the conquest of the city by the Christians. The mosque's courtyard of ablutions, which reused a column with a Visigoth calendar, has survived. The temple reflects the different historic periods of the city, and the combination of different styles and structures offers a unique vision of the past. Modern Carmona expanded beyond the limits of the ancient city, and its walls were no longer used. The large convents of the city were founded during the 16th century, whilst the palatial houses were constructed during the Baroque period. One of the landmark buildings of the 19th century Carmona is the food market. As a result of the expropriation of church assets, which brought great wealth to the nobility and the agrarian bourgeoisie, new infrastructures were built on land hitherto owned by the church. The first stable market of the city was built on the site occupied by the Santa Catalina convent. The city's museum and interpretation center offer visitors the opportunity to put the city's past into context through a chronological journey through its rich and eventful history. Housed in the palace of the Marquis of Los Torres, the museum was conceived to complement the idea that the city, with its streets, plazas, houses, monuments and landscape, is itself a museum. Carmona is a modern city whose identity is based on the preservation of its historic legacy. Its convenient location, near to the E5 trunk road and just 20 minutes from Seville's airport and train station, make it ideal as a tourist destination. The festive events held in the city also provide a perfect opportunity to visit Carmona. Apart from the religious pilgrimages and the fair, Easter week is the most important event of the year. Its solemn processions and valuable religious images have led to it being declared a fiesta of national tourist interest. Over the past few years, the development of the tourist industry has led to the increase in the number of places to stay in the city. The numerous accommodation possibilities range from hostels with the flavour of traditional houses to 4- and 5-star hotels and the Parador, a luxurious state-owned hotel. The city also offers a wide variety of places to eat, from traditional bars to haute cuisine establishments, whose dishes are in many cases inspired by centuries-old traditions with their Andalusi and Mudéjar flavour. The local specialities include the typical salmorejo, chickpeas with spinach, meatballs, migas with orange, and taganinas with majao. Also popular are the traditional confectionery products prepared in convents such as that of Santa Clara, as well as the famous torta inglesa or English cake, which is named in honour of the English archaeologist Jorge Bonso. Carmona synthesizes the history of a region, the history of the Guadalquivir Valley. Those travelling along the Roman Betica Route can walk through Roman doors, learn about the burials of the Carmona dwellers in the 1st and 2nd century, visit archaeological sites, and all this in a living city. Today, Carmona makes its past a project for the future.